fact I find rather difficult to comprehend. On the other hand, I am here too, and I cannot understand that either. Chapter 1. I remember waking up. It must have been early afternoon. Opening my eyes, I saw above me the sky, which was blue with the occasional cloud. It felt warm, and I sensed at once that it was too warm for April. One might almost call it hot. It was relatively quiet. I could not see any enemy aircraft flying overhead, or hear the thunder of artillery fire. There seemed to be no shelling nearby, or explosions, no air raid sirens. It also struck me that there was no Reich Chancellery and no Fuhrer bunker. I turned my head and saw that I was lying on an area of undeveloped land, surrounded by terraces of houses. Here and there, urchins had daubed the brick walls with paint, which aroused my ire, and I took the snap decision to summon Grand Admiral Dönitz. Still half asleep, I imagined that Dönitz must also be lying around here somewhere. But then discipline and logic triumphed, and in a flash I grasped the peculiarity of the situation in which I found myself. I do not usually camp out. My first thought was, what did I get up to last night? Seeing as I do not drink, I could rule out any overindulgence in alcohol. The last thing I recalled was sitting on a sofa, a divan, with Eva. I also remembered that I was, or we were, feeling rather carefree. Just for once I had decided to put the affairs of state to one side. We had no plans for the evening. Naturally, there was no question of going out to a restaurant or to the pictures. Entertainment in the capital was gratifyingly thin on the ground, largely as a result of my directive. How could I be sure that Stalin would not be arriving in the city in the coming days? At that point in the war, such a turn of events could not be dismissed out of hand. What was absolutely certain was that he would be as unlikely to find a picture house here as he would in Stalingrad. I think Eva and I chatted for a while, and I showed her my old pistol. But when I awoke, I was unable to recall any further details, not least on account of the bad headache I was suffering from. No, my attempts to piece together the events of the previous evening were leading nowhere. I thus decided to take matters into my own hands and get to grips with my situation. Over the course of my life, I have learned to observe, to reflect, to pick up on even the smallest detail to which many learned people pay scant heed or simply ignore. Thanks to years of iron discipline, I can say with a clear conscience that in a crisis I become more composed, more level-headed. My senses are sharpened. I work calmly, with precision, like a machine. Methodically, I synthesize the information at my disposal. I am lying on the ground. I look around. Litter is strewn beside me. I can see weeds and grass, the odd bush, a daisy and a dandelion. I can hear voices shouting. They cannot be far away. The noise of a ball bouncing repeatedly on the ground. I look in the direction of these sounds. They are coming from a group of lads playing association football. Not little boys anymore, but probably too young for the Volksturm. I expect they are in the Hitler Youth, although evidently not on duty. For the time being, the enemy appears to have ceased its onslaught. A bird is hopping about in the boughs of a tree. It tweets, it sings. Most people will simply interpret such behavior as a sign of happiness. But in this uncertain situation, the expert on the natural world and the day-to-day battle for survival exploits every scrap of information, however small, and infers that no predators are present. Right beside my head is a puddle, which appears to be shrinking. It must have rained, but some time ago now. At the edge of the puddle is my peaked cap. This is how my trained mind works. This is how it worked even then, in a moment of confusion. I sat up without difficulty. I moved my legs, hands, and fingers. I did not appear to be injured. My physical state was encouraging. But for the sore head, I was in rude health. Even the shaking, which usually